What makes a character complex and interesting? That is the question that we are going to answer today. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Brain Design, a new show where I'm going to be exploring the intersection of game design, storytelling, and character psychology. My name is Brady. I'm a licensed therapist. I want to talk to you about what makes characters interesting. And the first character that I want to talk about on this show is Kiryu from Yakuza 0. So I started playing Yakuza recently. It's kind of been on my backlog for a long time. I've always been a little intimidated by just how many games there are in the series. I see a new one come out and I get excited about the idea of like being caught up with this series, but I just never seem to find the time to like really sink into it. And I decided that I would change that and start this new series at the same time. So I've been playing Yakuza 0. I'm a couple hours in now. And so far there's been a ton of things in the narrative that have made me want to talk about what makes him such a captivating character and why his struggle is so believable and gratifying to see unfold. So one of the intersections between storytelling and character and psychology that I find super interesting is in character conflicts. When I think of what makes a dynamic character, and also when I'm starting the process of therapy with someone, I'm kind of thinking about the same things. I'm thinking about what are the issues and conflicts that this person is dealing with that have kind of pulled them in different directions. And so these are the three kind of core conflict areas that we would start looking in. So we have our internal conflicts, right? And these are kind of the things that are happening within ourselves, right? This is any sort of emotional crisis, any sort of identity crisis, crisis of faith. And we all experience very dynamic internal conflicts, right? We can simultaneously feel disappointed in ourselves, but at the same time, want to see ourselves do better. And this is an important area for the therapeutic process, obviously, because this is the thing that is most immediately present in someone's life, right? The things that are happening within them that we can start to analyze and understand and start to change. And then we have our external conflicts. And this is any sort of issue between yourself and the world around you. Okay. So any external threats, challenges, obstacles, right? In our lives, this could be like your workplace. It could be something more abstract like the economy, right? Or it could be something even more immediate like your car not working and needing maintenance or something like that. They are not things that are dealt with within the self or between you and other people. So that would be an interpersonal conflict. It's between us and other people. So these are the basic building blocks of any dynamic character. As someone experiencing a piece of media, this is what we like to see. We like to see a character rendered with complex issues that ask them to sort of pick and choose what they focus on, right? Because that's often what we have to do. We have to sort of compromise. Like, okay, there are things that are an external conflict to me. Like, let's say it's a job that I don't like, but I may have taken that job to support my family. And you can have a conflict with your family, and that does not mean that you are in a sort of like negative space with them. It just means that they represent a challenge for you in your life, something that's not easy and that does tug away at something else that's also going on in your life, which would relate us back to an internal conflict. Do I feel proud about myself? And generally, how does the fact that I don't necessarily like this job, but I know that it supports my family, impact my self-esteem? Knowing that I'm choosing to sort of compromise between these two things may actually help soothe the conflict within myself of, not feeling too bad about the fact that I have to do that. But it leads to interesting choices, right? And so this is all of the stuff that we want to see a character go through. And it's something that I'm thinking a lot about when I'm starting therapy with someone, right? I'm thinking about what are the issues going on in their lives? Where's the stress most concentrated? And how is this person working to compromise, or are they not compromising effectively to solve those issues? So let's talk about Kiryu then. These are what I sort of have gathered about Kiryu as some of his initial conflicts. Like I said, I'm in like kind of the first couple hours of the game. Kiryu as a character doesn't present with a lot of emotional range at the start, but it's kind of deceptive because we do see that he is very caring about his loyalty to Kazuma and Nishiki, who he has grown up with as an orphan. And by extension, that loyalty carries over to the Yakuza in general, right? It doesn't really carry to the Dojima family. That's not really where he has assigned his value as a entity that he owes a kind of social debt to, right? So already we see that there is a connection between this internal conflict of I sort of put up with some of the hierarchical structures that exist in this Yakuza organization that he doesn't really seem to align with as much as someone like Nishiki does, right? Nishiki talks about wanting to sort of work his way up the chain of command and become something within the Yakuza.
おめえもこの世界でのし上がりたきゃ少しは見習えよ。
That may be a goal of Kiryu's as well, but at least from the start and by his like choosing to exit over bringing dishonor to the person who took him in as an orphan, we can see that like his loyalty is of a much higher priority than what he wants to sort of gain in respect and power through these organizations. Something else that comes into play very early on is Kiryu is put in a situation where he is collecting a debt as, you know, a part of this sort of obligation to the Yakuza. That's his job, basically. But he's very confronted by the idea that his morals are put into question when he discovers that someone has actually gone and killed the person that he roughed up. The suggestion that Kiryu didn't know how far he was going or that he was careless and compromised this really upsets him, right? And it's part of the reason that he decides, okay, you know, if the only way to not bring dishonor to Kazuma is to remove myself from the Yakuza, then that's what I have to do. I have to clear my name. I have to make sure my loyalty stays intact because he chooses that, right? Because he chooses to prioritize these people he feels this kind of loyalty to. The things that he's compromising here are kind of his personal identity in relation to the Yakuza and also his sense of belonging, right? He's not going to be able to interact with Nishiki and Kazuma the same way that he was before. He's going to lose access to a lot of the resources and maybe some of the protection of being in the Yakuza.
何言ってんだ。杯もらって3年そこらのヤクザが5体満足で足洗えるわけねえだろ。最悪。殺されんぞ。
Which then brings us into his external conflicts, right? Being a part of the Yakuza kind of puts him in inherent conflict with society around him, right? They are a criminal organization. And so he is outside the generally accepted behaviors of most citizens. Even as he steps down to become a civilian, he's still very much Kiryu, right? Like, just because he's not called a Yakuza anymore doesn't mean that he is suddenly going to ditch all of the behaviors and mentality and identification with that culture that he had when he was there. So what I'm guessing is he's going to be put up against challenges of culture and obviously the laws as well. Being in any way associated with a criminal organization is going to make the law an antagonist to him. And at the same time, one of my favorite parts of the game so far is all of the third party threats. Okay, this is like the hooligans. It's the random fucking people who come up to you on the street and just want trouble. They want business. Motherfuckers always want to start trouble with me. You want to start trouble? I thrive on delinquents. As of the moment that I'm at in the game, to me, it seems like Kiryu has chosen to prioritize the interpersonal dynamics in his life, specifically the ones down here, even at the cost of some of these things, and putting himself in a more threatened position with these elements. And when we look at something like this, that's how we understand why Kiryu is making the decisions that he is. We're learning that a big part of why he is so loyal to Kazuma and why he's connected to Nishiki is because of the opportunity that he got through the orphanage. It's instilled in him these very strong internal values of like what it means to belong to a community. And that he'd basically give up his entire life and put himself at risk so as not to upset that balance. This is everything to him, right? And I think we connect with someone like Kiryu because we face this kind of thing as well, right? Kind of like I talked about when I'm starting therapy with someone, I'm thinking about this stuff. I'm thinking about what are some of the personal goals you might have put on hold or that you have not pursued as ambitiously because there's someone in your life that you care about and they just rank higher in your priorities than yourself at the moment. I can see that Kiryu kind of does this, right? He really doesn't put himself at the top of his own ladder of concern. Like he's completely willing to throw himself into certain death when he goes to talk to the head of the Dojima family and has to beat the shit out of a bunch of guys to get there. Let's fucking go. 8v1. You just punch it's 3 people at once. And there's just cash flying around. I think it's something that we can both admire about him as a character because there's probably something in our lives that we're thinking, yeah, you know, I do have that external conflict, my boss that I wish I could go up and you know, really speak my mind to, but I'm not able to make that compromise because there are things that I need to protect in these other categories first, right? We admire that Kiryu really doesn't seem to give a shit about anything other than protecting his relationships here. And at the same time, it makes us feel like kind of sad for him because we can see that he's willing to give up basically everything that has the potential to give him more personal fulfillment that's not attached to anyone else. He's just got these sad eyes, and we want to see him happy because I think that's what attracts us to a compelling storyline. And, you know, especially when I'm working with someone who's just got a lot going on and we're starting that therapy process and I'm thinking about the scale of the work that we need to do, right? And where do you start? Do you start with the coping skills of how you deal with your external conflicts, what you can and cannot change about them? Do we start working on communication dynamics to improve some of those interpersonal relationships, which may have conflicts in them because we're not communicating effectively or we're not communicating at all? And then obviously all of the internal stuff, how someone experiences and processes emotions and trauma and just the whole mess of a person that all of these things kind of bring together. So far, Yakuza 0 has managed to set up that character for us and make it relatable, make it fun. Like, I'm having such a blast playing this game because at the same time, it is so compelling and clearly complex in its rendering of not just Kiryu, but like, you know, Nishiki's got his own kind of situation that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point as well. And while it's doing all of that kind of self-serious storytelling, it's also fucking goofy as hell. What gets me about this game is like the setup for the story is like, it's complex. It has to do with personal and cultural values and loyalty and fulfillment and all these things. Lots of layers to this. And then the presentation is just like the most melodramatic, like soap opera-y shit. I like that it buys into its own melodrama. But like, just look at this fucking cinematography. It's brilliant. Like This is fucking artwork that's like just allowing itself to also be fun. So, as I continue playing Yakuza, I do intend to kind of talk about other elements of the storytelling, the character design, and the psychological perspectives that kind of tie it all together. Like I said, for now, I've got a couple of subjects that I want to talk about, which I'll get into in the next two parts of this series, which is already a lot for only being a couple hours in, but there you go. That's a testament to how well the story is written so far and just how much we're going to be able to pull out of it. So that is the first episode of Brain Design and why I think the story of Yakuza 0 sets up Kiryu to be a very compelling and interesting character. I'll leave you with some of my favorite moments from the playthrough so far. If you'd like to see more, stick around, and I will see you next time. Bye. Vending machine. 10 grand. What do we get? Ah, my dream of having a Mandarin. Well, it didn't solve all our problems, but we're at least a little bit refreshed. This is just an anime. You can't tell me this isn't just literally an anime, and I am so here for it. Ah, Kiryu. He's thinking about his whole fucking life right now. Oh my god, what the fuck was that? We had like a spin move with the couch? I love that this is like the obstacle. A big guy holding a couch. Let's see another way. I guess I'll have to jump it. Okay, Kiryu. What are you gonna do? How the fuck did he manage that? He jumped at it like perpendicularly. Fuck it, we ball. Oh my god. Yes, out the window. Oh my god. Jesus, he almost went out the window himself. Bring it. Fucking bring it. Okay, he brought it. He's just got one expression, but he speaks so many fucking languages of contempt. It's so melodramatic as well. It's like so beautiful. Like, look at this fucking shot. Like looking down over the city with his reflection, like superimposed, almost like holographic over the city. Like this is amazing. This is like subtle, good storytelling. And then you just have like sad guy in the shower, like super overt, blunt. The juxtaposition is wonderful. Did Kiryu straight up just didn't ask this guy?